Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Today, we're going to learn how to market your company based on a dime or the cost of a Dumars cheeseburger, which we have checked. It's $2.60. So, a lot of people think that you need to spend a lot of money to get some of the results that you want. And while that may be true, the focus of this is in really early stage companies that may not have large budgets or a budget at all to really get some early traction. So while we will give specific cases and ways to do this, think about relating this in your everyday business lives. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know. You can stop me at any given time. So the objective is to create your marketing plan on a $0 budget or up to about $2.60. So everything that we talk about today are things that we have physically done. So we're not going to say that we read it somewhere and this might work. Everything we've done. So if we're going to use any kind of metric, time is the metric. So time costs money, but not physical money. So how do you create a marketing plan scheme on a $0 budget? All right, first things first, pick one metric. So the reason you should do this is think about it like this. If you were trying to track 4 different things, you're likely to take 100 divided by 4. You're only going to give something 25% of your time or 25% of all that effort. However, if you decide to track one thing, you're putting 100% into that. And the reason you're doing this is for pure numbers, right? So if you can track one number, if you can focus on one thing, you will be able to put all of your focus towards that one thing. Same goes if it was 3 things, 33%, 2 things, 50%. What we found is that when we focus on one specific thing, we're able to get the results, see a lot more results in that. So in our case, we typically try and collect emails. So we can collect emails in multiple different ways. One could be, and we'll go over this, is through call to actions on a website. It could be as simple as going to the store and seeing someone's newsletter and saying, if you want more, fill out this piece of paper. It could be an event that we have. So we're trying to collect information from people so that we can talk to them at a later time. So we might get them once, or we might get them to our site, but most people aren't going to the same thing unless they're being told to again, or someone's telling them. So people go to 3 main websites a day, and I guarantee you it's not your site, or they're not coming to your place. So you have to tell them to do it, right? So
what you said makes total sense. I wouldn't want to split my stuff up a bunch of buckets. So I'm doing emails for Freescape.
Yep.
And I take it this is just a sample list, but would it be okay to include in your sample list if you want to just go straight to, I want to track sales, or are we ahead of that?
So a sale is a conversion of that, right? So to get there, think of a funnel, right? How do you put as much things into the top towards that one ending goal that you want? And so sales is that end result from this. So we all want something. We all want a client. But if all we do is tell the person to buy our stuff, we're probably not going to get them, because, and we'll get into this in the later slides, but the world is filled with ads everywhere, and people are throwing a lot of stuff at them. And if we can focus on tracking one thing instead of that sale all the time, things are different. We're not a shopping mall, right? If you ever go to MacArthur or Lynn Haven or Pembroke Mall, the reason that they can charge such a high rate is because people are in a buying mode. When people are online, they're not in a buying mode, right? So you're trying to convince someone to do something that they're not there to do. Where when I step into that mall, I know that I'm not just window shopping, but my wallet's ready to be out and I'm going to make a transaction. And so you have to think of the psychology behind how someone is going to do a transaction. And if someone is in a physical space and they know that that's where commerce happens, then they're more likely to make that transaction. But if they're not, and they're just online, where they're looking at Facebook and now they're being trying to sold something when all they wanted to do was learn something or see what their friends' cats were doing, you're messing with things, and the brain doesn't trigger that kind of way. Make sense?
This acquisition, pick one.
Yeah. So it could be other things too: LinkedIn group members, shares, retweets, Facebook engagements, any of those things. But pick one and focus on it. I recommend doing it for a period of time too, so that you can look at it and say, okay, this worked or this didn't, and you pick that number. So planning is important, but don't focus on saying this is exactly the rubric that we're going to do. Because if you do that, what happens on day 2 when something changed and you need to pivot from that? So focus on one metric and go from there. And I'll be able to send you guys these slides and video as well afterwards. So a great example as to how social can be great, but not convert into anything. So December 28th, this was last week, we sent out a tweet. It said, how we turn a cup of coffee into a few $1,000s, true story. Had the link, and then it got favorited 12 times. So we went back and said, all right, how many of that actually converted to our site? One hit. So from this tweet, although it had some engagement, it didn't actually convert even to our site very well, let alone to that metric that we wanted. So when we talk about that one metric, have a reason why you want to track that specific thing. And just because you get engagement on social doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get those people to even land where you want them to. So as someone's reading this, as Twitter is very much just a digital newspaper, they're scrolling through and they might just be, they want to be the leader. So this guy just wants to be the leader in ROI, right? So he's just going to start retweeting and favoriting all these things just to do it, but not really doing anything with it. So the idea is to get them to go not only to the page, but then once you get them to the page, to find them reasons to go back there at a later time. Remember, you're not a shopping mall. And if you act like a shopping mall, you're also not Amazon, right? So the digital version would be Amazon. You're not Amazon, so don't try to be. All right, so what are you guys already using? Take an inventory of the tools you already use or have been thinking about using. So my guess is you guys have a pile of business cards somewhere, right? Mine are on my desk, thousands. They might be in a manageable way to go through them. They might not be. Blog posts, white papers that you might have written, and social media posts that you've done. Just create a collection of all of these and go through them and take an inventory of them, right? So recently we went through and looked at our blog post. We had over 120 different blog posts that we had created, but we had no sort of system of what was written, why it was written. It was just the Wild West, if you will. And so we went through this inventory and saw that there was some really strong categories of information. The same could be said for your business cards. So let's say you've been to 10 networking events, you met 3 people at each of them, that's 30 people. In some capacity, some of them is probably going to be someone that you think might turn into a customer. Could be, so we'll call this hot, warm, and cold leads. So the cold are the people, the insurance and real estate folks that just give you a card that you know you're probably not going to get anything out of, depending on your industry. Then you have people that you had great conversations with, but you just didn't know how to convert them. So literally, for all of these things, take a spreadsheet out, make 3 columns, or take an inventory of all of the information, and then have basically a checklist of who you think is hot, who you think is warm, and who you think is cold. Ignore the cold. Go to the hot. So hot meaning likely to do what you want them to do, and focus on creating content for those people that are in the hot side. Now remember, we talk about all these things being, doing all this in a very short budget. Remember, these things will take time, but once you look at them, you'll see that there's a lot of information that you can pull from them. The same for white papers on social media. So literally go to Google and get a Drive account, open up a spreadsheet, get Excel, and take an inventory of all the information that you have. And then categorize it into 3 different things. So the goal is to get people to convert to one of these things. So let's say you create a LinkedIn Facebook or a LinkedIn or Facebook group, and you remember that you met Johnny at the Chambers end of the year party, and maybe they'd be a good fit for you to join your thing. So you're going to reach out to that person and say, hey, I have this group. I think that you should join it. Here's X, Y, and Z reason. So you're leveraging your already existing market, your what you've already been doing. Questions so far? And again, all this information I'll send out to you guys, slides plus the sound. All right, so you can also take that information and then go, who has engaged with you? Who has helped you in the past? And reach out to those in your network and ask them. So you might not have talked to someone in 5 years, but you think that there could still be something there. I wouldn't throw them away. I would put that and leverage those relationships, because you never know where anything can go. And then who's helped you in the past, so people that might have helped you get to somewhere you are, and then reach out to those individuals. So ways that you can do this. You can poll and survey your network and see what they're looking for. So if any of you guys ever look at my Facebook account, you'll see that I do a lot of questions about things like this. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm basically putting together a questionnaire and seeing who potentially could be in some of our programs. And so you can ask simple questions. What sucks about your marketing today? Or what are the things that you're looking to grow your business with? Or where are your biggest pain points in growing your bakery, or whatever it may be? So ask specific questions for a specific demographic. So something about 3D printers, like what if you were in a bind, what would you 3D print, right? Or, a lot of people talk about the NASA stuff, the rockets and Apollo 13. How crazy would it have been if there was a 3D printer on a spaceship, right? They could have just printed it instead of having to figure out all that stuff. Questions around that will engage with people with the networks that you already have. So you can do this in multiple different ways. You can do this on your already existing networks. You can do this through email. And then you can also get a survey. And all this stuff is also available in some form of free online. So if you have a social media account, it's likely free. You can do survey software that is free as well. So you can do either SurveyMonkey, Wufoo. You can do, Google has a program where you do that. So using all those tools to basically compile them together to get the results that you want. So ask questions is a great one. Get involved in other streams. So you can go to Reddit or Quora, like really strong educational forums, and see what other people are posting. And then you get involved and start posting as the authority in your space as well. The key here for all of this is we're not selling at all. We're educating. The reason we're not selling is because we're not a shopping mall. If all we're trying to do is focus on the sales aspect of it, we're going to draw more people away, because the psychology behind it is they're not ready to make that transaction. But when they are, they are. And then if you're really ADD about things and you want to know like the times and things, you can track all that stuff as well. So if you send out a tweet or a questionnaire at a certain time, who opened it, who read it, who clicked it, who filled it out, just so you can track those things. One of our companies in the summer sent out an email at 2 a.m. and I got it, and I was really mad at them. And next morning I called them at 9 a.m. I'm like, why didn't you send an email at 2 a.m.? It was the highest converted one they ever had. And I was like, how does that happen? But, trying different things out. So there's, standards as to when and how to send out specific content. But that might not be sticky for you, right? That might not work for you. And so try and test these things out and see what works and what doesn't. Also try and test out some different words, combinations as well. Questions so far? Sweet. All right. So educating. So develop an educational series in response to the answers in the poll that you have completed. So if things went well, people answered the questions that you asked them. So that's what they're looking for, right? Don't create things that people don't want. So listen to the people and then create the content for them that they've been asking for. So they have those questions, and likely you may have the answers or the means to get to those answers, and then answer them. So you can do this in 3 different ways. A dummy's guide to insert the topic that they're asking for. Dummy's guides, the books. It's the same thing as this. Create a white paper or a series of posts that are the dummy's guide to starting a business, marketing a business on a dime, creating a 3D software company, launching a food truck, whatever it may be, but a dummy's guide on that specific topic. Another way to do this is on the answers or the questions that people are asking, create a guest speaker forum for people to then attend, whether online or not, with people that are experts in those fields. So if people had a lot of questions about taxes and how do I focus on taxes for employees or taxes at the end of the year, you could create a summit, and not like a huge summit, like a summit like this, like a 1-hour session, call an accountant and say, can you please come and speak to these people? They're looking for your help. Now you might say, why would you bring another authority to sell? Well, because you're connecting those dots for them, and your people are going to look at you as more of an authority or the subject matter in that, and you're helping them out. And then also, you might have actually produced some of the questions they have, create to a recently finished project that you did, and give that information out. So years ago, I used to run a technology company, software company, and we would take every Friday, we would bring in the developer community and showcase some sort of technology that we had been building on. We did that for 2 reasons. One, because we're heavily recruiting and we needed people to attend. And so we were using that as a recruitment tool. But then also it was just a kind of a way to give back to the community and get people engaged. But we would just literally just show off lines of code of how we did specific things. And then we bought pizza. So that was more than Dumars, but pretty close. Questions?
You mentioned a second ago the rules of thumb, and it just reminded me that I was always wanting to look for links of what, even though the recommendations might not work for me, what are they? And I haven't been able to find any. I mean,
like what?
Like send them out Tuesday. If your business is Zack, send them out Tuesday at 4 o'clock.
Yeah. So I think they say this is ballparking it. Like email is like Tuesdays or Wednesdays at 8 or 10 a.m. Social media is.
That's what it was at Code for America. Was we did Tuesday mornings at
So one, not to take credit for it, but one of our friends, News to Live By, Daniel Rubin, he sends out a post every Tuesday, I think, actually. And he used to send it at like 10 a.m. And I was like, try sending it at like 5 a.m. and see what happens. And so he saw like a 20% increase of opens. So he started doing that instead. But if you just Google, when should I tweet something? Also be thinking about, I can't remember if this is in the slides or not, but think about how people actually are searching for things and then research that information. So if I'm looking for social media stuff, I'm probably not the only one. You could create that content on the best times to send it, right? And so the person's probably saying it, when should I send my tweet out? So think about how people are searching the web. So they're typically looking in 1 to 2 word combinations or in a question.
By the way, if you're using MailChimp, which is free up to 2,000 accounts, well, if you pay for it, they will find the best time for your email.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much that is to pay for it.
It's so we use that, and it's interesting how some of the times the time that you think that you should send it is not the time to send it.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
MailChimp, will they tell you how many people look at the email?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Email clicks, everything. As long as you have something to be converted, then yes.
Right.
So
So they links to a special page on the website. Whatever.
Yep. Yeah, the only issue that's kind of changed in the last year with email is that a lot of people use the Google browser, and they came up with their new kind of 3 tabs. So sometimes a lot of email campaigns will go to a different tab than the normal, but email is still a strong medium. We've seen we've gone as far as, let's say we're going to have an event on December 1st, and we send out an email that says one thing at a certain time, and then we'll send out the exact same tweet, just the short, sweet, to the point, and we'll see that the tweet does not get any engagement, but the email we've seen just, I think at one point, like we saw like 1 person sign up from Twitter, I guess, and then like 7 people would sign up for the event from the email. So it usually just directs them a lot quicker. And so think about social as impression based, where the eyeballs might get there, and email it's still going directly towards your inbox. So just be thinking about that when you are using tools. Also, think about when you're scrolling through like Facebook or Twitter, what stops you? Because usually people you're probably on it right now, right? You're just scrolling through. What is that piece that's stopping me? Are you on Facebook? Thanks.
Yes.
Yeah. But what is stopping you? Because likely, if someone is going through one of your feeds, they're not stopping on your content, because that's not the way that we scroll through pieces. But email, people for the most part are opening emails. All right, so create a template and follow it. The key here is deposit more than you withdraw. So if you're going to imagine a Facebook page here where kind of like a headline with some sort of call to action to do something, and then a clickable link to go to that piece. We were just talking to Kevin earlier where he ran a couple of ads. Sorry, I threw it under the bus, but basically spent some money on advertisements to get people to go somewhere. He got engagements, but he didn't have any kind of convertible piece to that ad. So basically he was bringing people somewhere, and they got there and they didn't know what to do. And so he couldn't communicate with them at a later time. And so the idea is that you're going to get, let's say you get lucky and you get someone to go to your page or to your store or whatever it may be. How do you get them back? Because we're not a shopping mall, and you need to get them back at a later time. And the more ways that you engage them, the more likely they will engage with you. And so we've seen that from first impression to first sale can take anywhere from 5 to 7 impressions or pieces of content being pushed at you. Sometimes it takes 1 time, sometimes it takes 10 times, but the average is about 5 to 7. Meaning, if someone saw about us on a website and then it went away, then maybe we had a newspaper article, and then maybe somehow there was a tweet and we actually convinced them to click the tweet. Then they went to the site and signed up for one of our email lists. And then we started educating them through email. Maybe at that point, we had converted them enough to think about who we were. But it takes a lot of interactions to get people to do what you want them to do. And so remember, deposit more than you can withdraw. I don't know if we stole this line or not, but I use a lot. And did we steal this line? Or did you come up with it? It was stolen. but it means well. Deposit more than you withdraw. Let's see if it's So the reason we're doing this is because we want to be different, right? The average human is exposed to thousands of ads a day, right? 1 in 5,000 chance. Everything around you is an ad. The building you're in is an ad. This event is an ad. Your glasses are an ad. This speaker is an ad. This computer, the 20 stickers on the back, everything is an ad. But how do you be different? So if you're educating people rather than just being that used car salesman, you're being different. Deposit more than you can withdraw. All right, so a quick story. About a year ago, we put on, or maybe 18 months ago, we put on our 4th Start Norfolk event. It's a build a company in a weekend competition. And we hosted it here. We bought 16 pounds of coffee. And actually, I think we bought 20 pounds of coffee, but we only used 4 pounds of it. And we had all this extra coffee. And I was like, how are we going to get rid of this? And the idea was, well, let's just invite all of our friends to come over for every day or every Tuesday for a few weeks and see what happens. And so we went on Eventbrite or Meetup.com or Facebook. And we created an event and emailed a few of our friends and said, come drink our coffee. If you come between 7:30 and 9, parking is free. And hopefully our coffee will be drank so that we don't have to waste 16 pounds of premium coffee. And it was really good coffee, actually. So I think it was like $16 a pound. It was from a local, what was the coffee from? Norfolk Coffee and Tea. And really great flavors. But we wanted other people to do it. So we decided to create a really basic meetup, no agenda, no nothing. Just come and drink our coffee. The original idea was to simply get rid of the coffee because we didn't want it anymore. And in the past, we've tried doing morning meetings, but they never really fared well. Whether it was at a restaurant or with an agenda, or for whatever reason, it just never worked well for us. In the past also, lunchtime didn't really work for us. So it was something that we were willing to try again, but we were going to try and focus it on a different way and see what would work. So we decided to do it for 6 weeks, and basically Googled other coffee meetups in the country and said, or took some of the words that they were using and used that in kind of our marketing. So like I said, we used free parking, free coffee, and that got our highest conversions. So the results. And so we actually did this morning. So it's probably our 51st coffee downtown meetup was probably this morning. And 10 to 15 people came per week every Tuesday for 1 hour. 0 money invested to start because we had already invested all that money. So it was from in a different expense. And the 6 weeks went well. And so we decided, okay, we still have 10 pounds of coffee to go. What are we going to do? Are we going to keep doing this or not? And after 6 weeks, we decided to keep going and doing it. And then around 3 months, all the coffee was up. And so we had to make a decision. Is this working or is this not? And so 90 days goes by. What was that 12 different meetups? Is this converting into what we want? And so we used to have we still have a 100 pot, 100 cup coffee maker. And it's awesome, but you have to get to the office like an hour and a half early because it's a minute per cup to brew it. And
you need 100 people to drink it.
So we usually do 60 to 80 cups, yeah. And, we'd still have 20 cups left over at the end. And the time, she's like, okay, is this worth it? So we made a decision that the coffee was up and that we were going to invest in a 12 cup, right here, this bad boy, 12 cup coffee maker, okay? So Amazon Prime came the next day, it was $15. Today we've upgraded to a second coffee maker, provided by Dave, thank you. And the results are really interesting, actually. So, and then we also have bought coffee since then. Folgers. It's not about the coffee. It's about the people. So what we found is that 5 large Folgers coffee containers, filters, and a $15 machine is about $53. And with an average, we went on the low side, 10 people per. And at the time, it was 32 meetups that we had done. So it was 32 meetups at 10 people, so it's 320. And then 53 divided by 320 is about 17 cents per person per event. So if you can get people to come to your thing for 17 cents, that's really, really, really cheap. Google mesothelioma, and to get someone to click on that ad could be anywhere from $100 to $500 per click. So if you can get someone for 17 cents, that's super cheap. All while educating and just doing your thing. You don't even have to educate. In our case, we wanted people to be there. So I had no idea these numbers were this low. And then I was doing a presentation about a month ago where we actually figured out these numbers. And we were like, man, maybe we should be doing this. So, but here's the crazy thing. We turned this investment into about $2,300. So from the relationships that we gained from our events, we saw that people were signing up for our programs or other events, and we were able to leverage at 17 cents a person into like a 1.5 million times return on investment. Now I know that's extreme because it's cents to a couple thousand, but 1.5 million % return is what we did off of a cup of coffee. So we were very different, right? And we still to this day have never sold anything at the event. It's not our goal to sell at the event. The idea is just to bring people here. People are nosy, and so when those people want to know what we do, then we'll tell them. Remember, if people aren't learning from you, or if they're not getting information from you, they're not going to come back. You want to educate while not giving away all of your special sauces. Obviously, there's something that you're going to want to give them at a later time. And think about the broadest amount of information that you can give away so that you can focus on getting as many people into the funnel as possible. And then once a critical mass is established, funnel them down into different pieces of content and encourage them to purchase around that 5 to 7 interaction piece. So go over the dummies guide again real quick to get a broad topic and break it down into several smaller parts. Each part is split by giving even more examples, collect all the data that people have given you, and create a written white paper, host an event topic, do a webinar, something like this, specific blog topics, for the next 4 weeks, talk about whatever people are asking, but split it up. So answer the questions that people are wanting because they're going to become your customers because you're engaging with them where other people were not. And if you guys have questions after today, a way to engage with us is at Ask Catch Questions. It's a once a week video blog where we answer the public's questions on any topic related to business. We've done 6 episodes. And it's a way that we record so that other people who may have questions are able to see that as well. Each video is like 2 to 5 minutes long, super quick. And that's the URL to do that. Questions? All right.